gotta be kidding me. I mean, we've all done it, right? We're human. We make errors. You do the thing, you set up the operation, you make the cut, and before you even remove the tool from the cut, you have that feeling in the pit of your stomach like, I fucking goofed this one, man. And here we are. This is one of those videos. This is what I was attempting to do. But for some dumb reason, I put it in upside down. I routed this big old rectangle in the middle of my piece. It's, you've been there. We've all been there. 15 years into this career and I still make stupid, mindless mistakes like that because that's the nature of being human. We are riddled with the capacity for error and there's nothing really we can do about it. I do want to acknowledge that a conscious workflow setup would negate a lot of simple mistakes like this. This is a thing I do when I have to cut the same thing in many pieces. I orient all of the pieces in the same way so that I can take them to the machine and off the machine in the same orientation, and I don't have to think about how I'm actually going through this workflow. It becomes robotic, it becomes mechanical. In this case, because I only had two pieces, 1 and 2, I didn't do that, and consequently this is where this stupid error came from. So that being said, when you inevitably make an error like this, don't freak out. You can fix it. Let me show you how. So the first thing I'm gonna do in this circumstance is look at my offcuts. I've got a couple of small, tiny offcuts right here. Got a little bit of a larger one, and I'm gonna see if there are any pieces that can actually match the grain in that rectangle. This is why it's important to keep all of your offcuts until you're completely done with a project. This is a thing I learned while I was in school. It's helpful to have something that not only has the same color variations as your actual workpiece, but is very likely to have grain patterns similar enough where you could patch something in without much fuss. Now, because this error is smack in the middle of the board, it's going to be really hard to patch something in that matches the grain, the color, and you don't see the seam on any of those 4 sides. So in this case, I have just enough room before I hit any of the joinery on the inside to actually remove that entire face and apply a veneer. So here are a couple of the longer offcuts I have from that same board. While I do have some straight grain, it is running at an angle and I don't have enough width here to actually pull the entire 2 inches I need for that piece. So that's out. This one actually is quite wide enough, but if you can see through the rough mill marks, it's got all of these wild grain characteristics, which is exactly why I didn't use it. It would ruin the aesthetic of the rest of the table, which is mostly nice straight grain lines. So this is also out. Now, luckily, I had this piece lying around. This is the type of piece that I keep around for box making. It's small, it's thin, it's perfect for a box bottom or a drawer bottom, depending on the situation, and it just so happens to be roughly the right size. Now, it's nice and straight grain. The color is very similar to that of the original piece, and the grain matches reasonably well to the other header. They're both straight. The color variation is close enough. So while it might not be ideal because it's not from the same tree or the same board as this piece came from, it's pretty good. And it's much better than having a giant rectangle bored out in the middle of your piece. so I've got exactly what I want. I've got the tiniest little bit of overhang on all 4 sides. I can mill that flush once the glue is cured, which will be, I don't know, well, it actually doesn't cure for 24 hours, but it'll be able to be taken out of clamps in about an hour, and then I can mill this thing flush and move forward with the project. So while this cures, I do just want to acknowledge something. You are human. You're bound to make mistakes. 15 years into a professional career and I still make stupid mistakes from time to time. Don't beat yourself up about it. As my dear friend April always says, everything is figure-outable. You can find a way to fix the situation. Now in this particular case, this component is small enough where it made the most sense for me to remove the error and apply a veneer, and that's going to take care of the problem hunky-dory. If you are working on a much larger surface, let's say a tabletop, and something goes wrong, you can patch things in, you can fix it, but a better alternative I have found throughout my career is to highlight the error. Now that may sound weird, but if you take the time to find a contrast, whether that be wood or a different material, I've used soapstone, I've used brass, there's any number of media that you can choose to employ in a project, and highlight the error rather than try to hide it, it tends to blend better. Now, if you're making a speculation piece and you can redesign and work around error, interesting things can happen and you can end up with a really cool effect. If you're doing something on commission though, and a client doesn't want a big brass spot in the middle of the table, it's going to be a little bit trickier. I'm just trying to give you options because we all make mistakes. All right. Time has passed, we've learned, we've grown, we've become better, patient, more empathetic human beings. It's time to unclamp this thing and actually square it up and make it pretty. Now I'm constantly feeling the board here because this was actually very slightly canted like this, which means there's less material to remove here than there was over here. So I'm gonna take more shavings on this side and I'm just gonna constantly run my fingers over it to get it to about even before I can actually take it flush. Three sides cut flush on here. I need to mill this down so it matches my other heather. Right now, it's about a 1/16 heavy, so I'm gonna run this through the thicknesser to clean it up. Now, these are within less than a 64th, maybe a 1/28. So we're gonna leave that last little bit to be taken down with a hand plane to make sure that they are flush. Much easier to take that down with a hand plane, much safer. And secondly, it's just nicer to work with hand tools. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's check it out. So here are our two header pieces right next to each other. This one's a little bit darker, but only because this surface just got freshened up with a hand plane. The grain patterns are nice and straight. The color is similar enough. I'm very happy with that. Let's put these on the actual leg so we can get an idea of how this looks in context. Groovy. There's one. There's two. So as you can see, there's no visual difference between the two. As far as the grain pattern goes, they match very, very well. I'm really happy with the straight grain on the front of that face. And remember, this is the underside of a table here, so you're gonna have about an 8 to 12 inch overhang of that table. Nobody's ever going to actually see the face of this piece. They would, however, see a big flaw in the face of that piece that's gonna draw your eye right to it. But it looks way better now, and you're never gonna be able to tell I even made a mistake. So there we are, friends. All's well that ends well. A pain in the butt? Sure. But human error, and you're never going to outgrow human error, so don't beat yourself up about it. Take a break, walk away from it, come back with a clear head, and figure out how to fix it. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was educational. I hope it was entertaining. If it was, listen, drop a comment down below. Give the old sub if you feel so inclined. It's never going to hurt the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it because I appreciate all of you being here and tolerating my nonsensical approach to making things out of wood. Go make a thing, have fun doing it, and allow yourself a little human grace. Till next week.